You might think awakening is peace, but the truth is, it begins with breaking. No one tells you that spiritual awakening isn't light. It's a slow, smoldering fire that burns away your ego, layer by painful layer. It doesn't give you more to believe in. It strips you of everything you thought was real. Family, love, God, yourself. Awakening doesn't happen the moment you touch the universe. It happens the moment you no longer know who you are. If you're falling into chaos, if it feels like everyone is leaving you, if you've whispered to yourself, "Am I going crazy?" Stay. Because this video won't just help you understand what's happening, it will help you survive it. This is the part no one talks about on the awakening journey, but it's the part that will save you. Every true awakening begins with a breakdown. No glory, no celestial music, no wise teacher stepping out of your dreams. Just a day where you wake up and feel that everything around you is no longer right. The job you once pursued with passion now feels meaningless. The person you once loved deeply, you now look at and feel nothing. The things you once believed were the meaning of life suddenly echo hollow. And the scariest part? No one around you sees it. Some call it an existential crisis. Some call it depression. Some say you're unstable, fragile, or need professional help. But the truth is, you've just walked through the first doorway of awakening. Not into light, but into darkness. You begin to feel like you no longer belong anywhere. Everything that once seemed stable now feels fake, forced, suffocating. Your mind can't focus on the normal things anymore. You pull away from small talk, dread meaningless gatherings, and get exhausted pretending you're okay. You're entering what many call the cracking, the first fracture, a kind of death. No body, no funeral, but inside, your entire identity is starting to collapse. You begin to question, what am I living for? Why do I always feel like I'm not enough? Why, after all I've achieved, do I still feel so empty? This cracking doesn't happen in a single moment. It creeps in, slowly, but irreversibly. If you're in this stage right now, know this, you are not alone. Millions of people are entering this fracture at the same time. But because we don't have the words to describe it, we think we're broken. We think we're the problem. Listen closely. You're not broken. You're being reborn. No one ever warned you that when the soul begins to awaken, it destroys every illusion you once mistook for you. That's why you feel disoriented, disconnected from friends and family, faithless, lost within yourself. But you haven't lost yourself. You're shedding an old version of you, one that was never truly you. Like a snake shedding its skin. The old shell cracks, it itches, it burns, but only by doing so can it grow. You're the same. This cracking is the first sign that something deeper within you is beginning to stir. It's not comfortable, but it's real, and you've felt it for a long time. And now, at this stage, you have two choices. Run back into the false light, pretend nothing ever happened, or take one more step into the dark, where every illusion will be peeled away. Most people run, and then return to repeat the same cycle of pain. Only the brave keep walking. If you're still watching this video right now, I believe you are one of the brave ones. You already know there's something greater, deeper, more real waiting for you ahead. And to reach it, you'll have to pass through the dark. But you don't have to do it alone. This video will be your small light in the long night, not to guide your path, but to remind you you're on the right path, even if no one else can see it. Next, we'll enter the second stage of this journey, the mirror stage, where you'll come face to face with the parts of yourself you once rejected. Keep going, because that is where the true light begins. After the cracking begins, a new phase emerges, the mirror of darkness. This is when you start seeing the things you never dared to face, not in the world out there, but deep within you. You realize you're not just light, not just kindness, not just the good, understanding, or spiritual person you've tried so hard to be. Beneath the mask, you are everything you once judged in others. Did arrogance in someone make you angry? Maybe because that same trait lives inside you, but you never dared to look at it. Did manipulation disgust you? Maybe because you've unconsciously manipulated someone too. This is the first principle of shadow work. What we hate in others is often a part of ourselves we haven't integrated yet. Darkness is not evil. It's every abandoned part of you. Emotions you've suppressed, wounds that were never heard, behaviors you've hidden out of fear of rejection. It lives in sudden bursts of anger. It rises when you feel jealousy, but pretend not to care. It hides in your constant need to be good, to succeed, to help everyone. It's there, quietly, but directing your every decision from beneath the surface. Darkness isn't something to destroy. You just need to see it. Do you remember the last time you were triggered? When someone said something that hit a nerve and you overreacted? It wasn't them who hurt you. It was something deep inside you, already wounded, that responded. That shadow. And every time it's triggered, it's an invitation. An invitation to pause and ask, am I reacting? Or is an old wound reliving itself? You don't need to go to the desert, meet a guru, or learn mystical techniques to do shadow work. You just need the courage to sit with yourself, especially when you least want to. A small practice. When someone triggers you, write this down. What did they do? What emotion did it stir up in you? Where have you felt that before? Were you once rejected, abandoned, hurt by someone like that? You'll be surprised. What you find won't be about them. It will be you, a part of you from the past, still unhealed. Darkness is a guide, not an enemy. When you begin to walk into it, you don't become darker. You become more whole. Here's something important. Shadow only has power when it's hidden. Once you see it, touch it, name it, it loses its grip on you. Some might say, I don't have anything in the dark. I've forgiven everyone. I'm not angry anymore. I only feel love. If you're thinking that, you might be wearing the light mask, and the shadow is still quietly smiling behind the mirror. Awakening isn't about escaping darkness. It's about entering it, moving through it, and bringing your light in. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. You cannot walk far on this path unless you face the part of you that you've denied. No one can do this for you. There are no shortcuts. No app can heal your shadow in place of your courage. But once you begin to see the shadow, you'll realize it's not as terrifying as you thought. It's just a part of you, waiting to be loved. Keep going, because beyond the mirror lies an even deeper space, spiritual isolation, when you realize no one truly understands you, and you no longer belong to the old world. But that's also where you meet yourself for the very first time. No one tells you this. When a true awakening begins, you'll start to feel like you're disappearing from the world. No one understands you anymore, not your family, not your friends. No one can quite grasp what you're going through. You start to feel lost in your own home. You're still sitting there, still smiling, still talking. But inside, you've left the frequency the world is still living in. No one hears the quiet call rising inside you. No one gets why you've lost interest in the things everyone else is chasing. No one understands why you've become quieter, deeper, different. So they begin to think you're negative, you've changed, you're hard to read. You begin to lose close relationships, not because you hate them, but because you're no longer vibrating at the same frequency. Maybe you've felt this already, haven't you? When you talk about healing, frequency, inner shadow, and the person across from you just stares blankly or replies, "Don't overthink it." No one is wrong here. It's just that you're shifting. You're stepping out of the old layer of awareness, the one most of the world still lives in, and spiritual isolation becomes inevitable. But this isolation isn't punishment. It's purification, like being lifted out of familiar waters. So you can learn to breathe with new lungs. At this stage, you'll likely feel, "No one truly understands me. I feel like an alien in a human world. I miss home, but I don't know where home is." The truth is, many souls are going through this exact stage. Right now, you're not alone. You're just a little ahead on the journey back to yourself. If you feel misunderstood, rejected, judged, remember this. You are not the problem. You're simply becoming you. And sometimes, to become yourself, you have to walk away from everything that once defined you. Let me say this clearly. It's okay to lose connection with old people. It's okay to no longer fit into your old life. That doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you're remembering what the world forgot. There's a concept called energetic isolation, a natural stage when the soul begins to rise in frequency and the old world simply doesn't fit anymore. Not to make you arrogant, not to trap you in loneliness forever, but to help you rebuild your connections from truth, not fear. This is where you learn something profound. You don't need anyone to understand you to be yourself. And here's the paradox. Only when you fully accept the isolation do you start to attract those who truly align with your soul. No more connections built on roles, only on resonance. When you learn to stand alone in the dark, without blaming, without begging, without explaining, you will feel something that only the brave ever feels. Your presence doesn't need validation. It only needs remembering. And when you remember who you are, those on your frequency will begin to appear. Not all at once, but slowly. One soul at a time, one glance. One voice says, "I thought I was crazy too." Isolation is not the end. It's the threshold before you step into a new family, your soul tribe. Keep going, because beyond isolation lies a deeper layer that few dare to touch. Spiritual ego, when the ego disguises itself in light. You've moved through the dark, but can you recognize when the ego wears a halo? There's a subtle trap that almost everyone on the spiritual path eventually falls into. A trap, not hidden in darkness, but right in the center of the light. After you move through the cracking, confront your shadows, and survive the isolation, you begin to feel yourself opening. You understand more. You feel more. You know things others don't seem to know. And you think, maybe I've reached a higher level. That's when the spiritual ego quietly steps in. It's not like your old ego, the one that wanted money, status, and attention. The spiritual ego is more refined. It wants purpose. It wants meaning. It wants you to believe you've risen above the world. It makes you feel different, special, awakened. It whispers that others haven't seen what you've seen, that you need to help them, explain to them, or pull away because they're not your frequency. Sound familiar? Spiritual ego doesn't speak loudly. It whispers, you're vibrating at a higher level. You understand them, but they're not ready to understand you. You no longer need to live like ordinary people. You've stepped outside the matrix. And so, you begin to play a new role, a version that is light, healing, awakened, but still just another mask. You passed through the layers of darkness, but didn't notice the final disguise the ego put on, the disguise of light. Carl Jung once said, "The brighter the light, the darker the shadow." The ego doesn't disappear when you awaken. It evolves. It gets new clothes. It shifts from, I'm better than you because I'm rich. I'm better than you because I'm awakened. So how do you recognize the spiritual ego? When you feel others are not on your level. When you need to prove how much you understand. When you get frustrated that people won't change. When you try to wake others up instead of respecting their journey. All of these are the spiritual ego speaking. Here's the paradox. Those who are truly awakened don't think of themselves as awakened. They don't preach. They don't persuade. They don't seek approval. And they certainly don't compare, because they know every soul awakens in its own time. So how do you move beyond the spiritual ego? Not by rejecting your insights, but by holding on to humility every single day. Humility doesn't mean shrinking. It means not clinging to any identity, even the identity of being awakened. Ask yourself, am I sharing or proving something? Am I being real or playing a new role? Do I want to help or do I want to feel above them? Only when you can answer these questions in silence, with no need to defend yourself, can you begin to step out of the final darkness, the illusion of light. True awakening isn't about arriving anywhere. It's about shedding everything you are not, even the idea of who you think you are on this path. Let your inner light not be a stage, but a sanctuary, where others feel safe, even without being awakened. Because sometimes, your silent presence is the brightest light you can offer the world. True humility doesn't speak through words. It shows up in your eyes, your listening, and in how you no longer try to be anyone. When you finally let go of even the concept of awakening, that's when you truly begin to awaken. And only then can you step into the next stage. Not escaping the old life, but being reborn inside it after you've moved beyond the illusion of the spiritual ego. A strange emptiness begins to appear. There's no desire to prove anything, no need to be understood, no more chasing the light. You begin to touch what this journey was pointing to all along. Ordinariness. So ordinary. It becomes sacred. You no longer want to escape life. You don't wish to ascend anywhere. You just want to live. Simply. Gently. Without energetic makeup. Without pretending to be the awakened one. This is when you begin to reintegrate into life. But you're not the same person anymore. You return to your old city, but with new eyes. You go to work, but you're no longer defined by your job. You love someone, but you're no longer attached to the idea that they have to heal you. You realize spirituality isn't in retreats or workshops. It's in how you wash dishes, how you listen. How do you reply to an email? How do you say something kind when no one is watching? Awakening doesn't take you out of the world, it brings you back to the world with a new heart. At this stage, you no longer see yourself as above or different. You start to respect everyone's journey, even those who've never read a single page of a spiritual book, because you see it now. Some are healing by raising a child. Some are meditating while caring for aging parents. Some are integrating their shadows by quietly forgiving without anyone knowing. You begin to see everyone is on a path. They just don't all call it awakening. This is when your light begins to radiate, not by shining, but by simply being. You sit with someone who's hurting, and you don't try to fix them. You're in the middle of an argument, and you don't need to win. You experience failure, and you don't call it wrong. You simply show up, unpolished, unpackaged, unbranded, and because of that, you become a healing space for the world, effortlessly. No stages needed, no titles, no spiritual career. You just live, and your life becomes proof that awakening is real. When you reach this point, you no longer need this video. You no longer need external affirmation. You know you are you, here, enough. And from that very space, you begin to spread light, not through knowledge, but through presence. In the next part, I'll take you into something more grounded, where you can begin to apply everything you've walked through. Not just feeling it, but living it. Not just knowing, but embodying. Awakening isn't something that happens once, during a deep meditation or a blinding spiritual moment. It doesn't come in the sound of chimes or sacred quotes. It arrives quietly, every day, in the smallest choices, in the honesty you keep when no one is watching, in how you face yourself when there's no way out. Most people wait for a miracle of awakening. But the truth is, awakening is not something you achieve. It's something you practice. And to practice, you don't need much. Just 3 things: a pen, a breath, and an honest presence with yourself. Writing is the simplest and most powerful way to see what you've never seen. Anytime someone triggers you, hurts you, or makes you overreact, it's not just about them. It's a part of you being awakened. And if you're brave enough, open a page and write. Not to vent, but to ask, what about that hurt me? What part of me, long forgotten, is speaking now? What is this emotion trying to teach me? When you write, you're digging into the subconscious, where your shadows can no longer hide behind polite smiles. And then, something strange happens. The emotion begins to dissolve. Because what is seen can be released. What is hidden will silently control you. Sometimes, emotions rise without warning. Your chest tightens. You want to run, eat something, check your phone, talk to anyone, just to avoid feeling. But if, in that moment, you pause, place a hand on your heart, inhale deeply, hold, exhale, hold, repeat for 1 minute. You'll feel yourself not being swept away by the storm. You're teaching your body how to stay, not fix, not escape. Just breathe with it. You don't need to meditate 2 hours a day to awaken. Just dare to stay with yourself for 60 seconds when every part of you wants to leave. And sometimes you'll feel like you can't walk alone anymore. You need someone, not to fix you, not to advise you, just to be there. No judgment, no effort to understand. Just looking you in the eyes and saying with silence, I've been there too. You don't need a spiritual community with thousands of members. You need one real person. Someone who doesn't require you to be anyone. Someone you don't have to explain yourself to, but who listens anyway. Someone you can say to, I'm falling apart, and they simply reply, I'm here. If you don't have that person yet, write down what you seek in a true companion, and at the same time, become that person, not for anyone else, but because you deserve to be seen in your truth. Awakening is not about escaping the old self. It's about learning how to bring light into the very places you once hid. You don't need light from the outside, just the courage to stay with yourself when no one else does. Write the truth, breathe through your feelings, and find one real person. 3 small things, but they can save you from years of being lost in endless spiritual loops. You don't need more knowledge. You need practice. You don't need to go higher. You just need to go deeper. Each day, each breath, each honest glance. And maybe, in the quiet, simple way you live, you'll start awakening others without ever needing to say a single word. Maybe you began this journey hoping to find light, something higher, cleaner, more beautiful. But what you found instead was breaking, tears without explanation, isolation, contradictions, a deep and terrifying sense of being lost. And maybe you thought, I must have taken a wrong turn. But if you're still here, if you're still listening to these words, then let me say this, slowly and clearly. You didn't take a wrong turn. You are simply walking through the final illusion. The illusion that awakening is easy, that it's beautiful, that it's always full of light. The truth is that awakening is not light. Awakening is stripping, unlayering, losing every mask, every belief, every version of yourself you once thought was you. Awakening is accepting that you don't know, and still choosing to walk forward, not to become someone else, but to touch the part of you you've never let live. Some will say, I just want to go back to who I was. But no one goes back, not because you are broken, but because that you was never real. You are simply returning to yourself. Not the ideal version, but the honest one, raw, cracked, but finally breathing. You won't need to prove your understanding anymore. You won't need to prove your awakening. You won't need to prove you've moved beyond. Because in silence you'll know, I'm not above, I'm not below, I'm just walking. And this journey, it never ends. There will always be another layer of shadow, another level of awareness. Another part of you is yet unseen, but you won't fear it anymore because you've learned the most important thing. True light doesn't shine from brilliance. It radiates from presence when there's nothing left to hide. And maybe the light you've been looking for are you when you stop trying to be anyone else. Thank you for walking this far with me. This path is yours. But you've never been alone. If what you've just experienced made you breathe a little deeper, live a little slower, or see yourself with new eyes, leave a few words below. Someone out there, they might need to see themselves through your story. And if you're ready to keep walking, find the next video. We'll go deeper into healing in relationships, where the shadow rises most clearly, and where love stops being an illusion. But whether you move forward or pause here, remember this: you don't need light to be enough. You only need truth. And truth, it always begins with a question. Are you willing to live truthfully, even when no one's watching?